This is Natural Powerlifting Radio. Deadlifts, chicken nuggets, video games. This is Check My Total, a powerlifting podcast with Timothy Payne and Andrew Hinson.
Welcome everybody to another episode. This episode is just me and your boy, Andrew.
Sipping on some root beer.
Root beer, that sounds good.
Some of the AW root beer.
Oh, you got the high-end root beer.
Yeah, I don't like the off-brand root beers that much, to be honest. I only really like AWs.
Well, you know what else I don't like off-brand of? Powerlifting belts.
Oh, dear.
So today we're going to talk about belts, why they're good for you. Are they actually doing anything for you? Which I guess I just answered that question.
Yeah.
And, some people might not have a clue what a belt's even doing. They just put it on because somebody told them to.
Yeah, maybe we'll touch on, what kind of thickness to get, what kind of prong or type or whatever you call that thing.
Yeah.
We'll kind of touch on that. And so I guess to start off is, what do we mean by like a powerlifting belt? Like when we say belt, that's different than like, something you keep your pants up with, or one of those terrible bodybuilding, like, they don't serve any purpose. I don't even know why they exist.
Yeah, I guess we'll just go ahead and start with what kind of belt, you need. A powerlifting belt is usually 4 inches wide and all the way around is what we're talking about. Because like Andrew said, those bodybuilding belts, they're real wide in the back and then skinny in the front. Well, you want your belt to be, the same width all the way around your body.
Oh, yeah.
Because really with those bodybuilding belts, to use them correctly, you actually want to be wearing it backwards to wear the thicker parts in the front.
Yep.
Which is one of the things we'll get into when we start talking about why a belt helps you. But yeah, you need a, 4-inch belt.
And then, the bodybuilding belts, I guess the reason they're wider in the back is like, I guess someone thought that, you push out on the skinny side and like the big side's supposed to support your back, but like you don't have anything to push on when it's so skinny.
Well, I also think it's a misconception that it's there to help your back.
Yeah, which is really not.
Because your goal when you're using a powerlifting belt is first, you've got to know how to breathe when you're lifting heavy weights to begin with. Yep. So when you take in your air, you're not filling up your lungs, you're filling up your belly. Mm-hmm. It's a big diaphragm kind of breath. So when you're wearing a belt, you're pushing against it with your diaphragm and your abs, which is causing you to be in better posture. Because when you push against that belt, you kind of sit up straight or however you want to call it. It helps your posture out.
When we say breathe out, like, we mean fill your belly and your abdomen with air. Your chest shouldn't be rising, so you shouldn't be filling your rib cage with air. And when you push out on that belt, basically what you're doing is it's the same thing without a belt. You can do the exact same process. The only difference is when you have something to push on, it just creates that pressure and that tightness that you just don't have if you go beltless. And it kind of wraps around and it kind of just amplifies what you're doing. Because like when you do it beltless, you breathe out. You're tighter, definitely, as opposed to if you just don't brace at all. But one
of the things
amplifies it.
One of the things I recently saw in a YouTube video, a guy was saying how when you take your breath and your belly fills up, your belly will expand. It'll look like you're fat. But when you're wearing a belt, your belly doesn't expand because it doesn't have anywhere to go. So you have more air in a tighter container, which, makes you more solid.
Yeah.
which is why you can do more, usually lift more when you're wearing a belt.
Yeah, it helps. Helps a lot of things. It can help secure your spine because you're kind of pushing out and won't get as like possibly you won't get as bent over. And yeah, it creates like a little I don't even know. It's like I was going to say it's like a belt, but
A belt's like a belt?
a belt. It's like a belt. I don't know. So also another thing about these belts is you don't want to place them. You don't really want to place them low. I would say it depends, like kind of where. Like they're not like keeping your pants up. Like you put it around your belly, like
Right.
and then like for me personally, I actually put the belt where like when I breathe in and like embracing and my belly pushes out, I actually place the belt where I get the most belly push. That's a preference of mine. So like it gets like even tighter. So
I
like
agree with that. Like if you
my
push out your abs like somebody's about to punch you in the gut, that's probably where you want to put your belt.
yeah, like I don't have my belt low because I don't know, I don't get anything out of that really. It just kind of gets in the way at that point. Um,
And it definitely depends on your body type too. A bigger person probably wears their belt lower than a skinnier person
yep. Yeah, definitely.
because you got more belly to work with to push against that thing.
Yeah, that's true. And then so that's kind of like that's what a belt is. It's thick. It's pretty thick. What is it made out of leather? Is that what they are?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all leather. Um, and there's different. Well, there's a lot of different thicknesses. Like, but the one I have is a 10 millimeter. But I guess the most common is a 10 millimeter and a 13 millimeter. Is that right? Is it 13?
Yeah, 10 and a 13.
There's a couple sevens. I've seen a couple fours, but I'd say the biggest, the most popular ones are 10 and 13. And it kind of just depends. It depends, how big of a boy you are, and just personal preference. Cause I mean, I tried on a 13 millimeter and like it's just too much belt, man, for me.
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's helping you any either, even if you are a bigger guy.
Yeah, some people I've met some bigger guys that say they like it, but like, oh, what was that? Oh, my salmon's ready.
Woo!
I'm cooking fish for the first time in my life. Yeah, so we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, back to the belts. Yeah, I don't know. It's too much for me, man. 13's too much.
For anybody that played baseball, you always know you want to break in your glove. So when you have a 13 millimeter belt, that sucker is just stiff, and
Yep.
it takes a million years to get your belt broken in. So I would suggest getting a 10 millimeter. Really, like I said, I don't think it matters what size you are.
Yeah.
I like having it being a little bit more flexible because it's just easier to work with, trying to flop it around you and get it sunk in before doing a big lift.
Yep.
It's just easier to break in than getting a 13. I think the 13 is kind of, like Andrew said, too much belt.
Too much belt, man. I would say the only counter is I have seen people. There are some people that prefer a skinnier belt for deadlifts just because some people say a 10 millimeter can get in the way of like their positioning. If a lot of times I know a couple sumo pullers that wear a skinnier belt because the other one kind of gets in their way a little bit, and then.
But I don't think they're talking about thickness though. I think they're talking about the width.
Whatever the thing is.
Because I agree with that as far as the deadlift and bending over to get down to a deadlift, getting like a 3 or a 2.5 inch belt instead of a 4 inch belt. But that's the width. That's not the
Oh,
The millimeters is what we're talking about, is thickness.
I got mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then well, I don't know what the what do people wear for benching? People wear like a slimmer belt for that. Bench
Yeah,
belt.
yeah, bench belts. I want to say they're 2 inches all the way around, but they were really created to keep people's bench shirts down. That's why most people started wearing a belt on the bench. Because
Yeah.
if anybody's ever worn a bench shirt or has been exposed to equipment, you want to pull the front of your bench shirt down and set it. And when we say set it, that's what we mean by using your belt. You latch it down to where it's tied in place. Because you go to arch up on the bench, your shirt will ride up and go back towards your face and get all, scrunched. So you don't want that going on if you're wearing a bench shirt.
That's true. Yeah, I would definitely say if you don't have a belt, well, you should like if you're just new, you probably don't need one. But if you don't have a belt and it's time to get a belt, then I'd say 10, 10 millimeter, and then I guess it comes down to the prong setting or the no prong, or whichever one you choose. The
Yep,
lever belts.
you got one prong belts, you got two prong belts, you got the lever belts or lever belts, like Andrew said. And then there's also ratchet belts, and they
Yeah.
make Velcro belts. I guess
Yeah.
it's all just personal preference, but I would suggest the one prong belt
Oh yeah.
because personally, my weight's always going up and down. So,
That's true. And here's my thing with the lever belts is you have to, if you're one of those people that like the same tightness for all lifts, then I guess that's fine and your weight isn't moving.
yeah,
But my thing is I actually prefer my belt like a one notch tighter on the squat and a one notch looser on the deadlift.
yeah, I agree with that too.
So, I mean, I don't need one of those lever belts where I gotta like unscrew it and move it or slide it, or I don't need none of that. I don't need it. I just want my prong. And with a prong, if you lose a lot of weight, man, just drill holes.
Yeah,
I got holes drilled into my belt.
yeah.
So
And another thing about these powerlifting belts, if you do stay around the same weight, these belts last for a lifetime. They
they
don't
really,
tear up.
the only time I've had to buy a new belt was when mine got stolen.
Yeah.
That was
So,
it.
if your bag never got jacked, then you still be wearing the same belt.
I really would.
And the reason I suggest a one prong is because when you're on the platform and you're getting psyched up and you're ready to go out there and bust out a PR, you don't want to be worried about trying to get two prongs and two holes.
Yep.
So I'll watch people I meet sometimes when they're over there struggling trying to get both prongs and into the two holes. Like, man, you save yourself some trouble and just get one prong.
Yep. Yeah,
'Cause-
I think there's so much easier, faster.
and it's not going to bust loose on you.
Oh no,
Yeah.
never. Let's see. I really think get you a 10 millimeter, get you a single prong if you don't have one, and kind of go from there. For powerlifting at least. I mean, obviously, if you're like an Olympic weightlifter, you don't wear powerlifting belts.
Yeah. And another tip, which I don't know how you can tell this if you're ordering a belt off the internet, but the rolly part on the buckle that helps it roll along the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the cheaper belts, that rolly part will have a seam in it. So it's more like you're trying to roll a square than a circle because it's got that seam in it, and
Yeah.
it'll make it catch.
Yep.
So if you can, try to get a seamless rolly part, which I don't know what it's called. But
Yep.
Yeah. So look for one of those that ain't got no seam in it.
Make sure you want a nice smooth circle cylinder thingy.
Yeah. Cylinder. There you go.
Yeah. So that's kind of the general guide to belts. I think I don't know. Never
You
had
kind
it.
of you kind of touched on it, but when do you think people should start using a belt?
Mm,
This could be in general or like during a cycle, a training cycle, just
I think
whatever.
people should start using a belt. I think you should use a belt whenever you get to the point where you feel like you kind of needed some extra tightness throughout your lifts and stuff, and like you need a little extra support. Um, and like probably if you're brand new, like I'd probably just get the basics down and start progressing without anything, no equipment for probably I don't know 5 6 months, 7 months, and then throw on a belt. Um, and it also just kind of depends. Like obviously, if you're have a like if you're an athlete, you can probably throw on a belt a little faster because your progress will be faster. Um, but I
Oh,
think you should spend quite a bit of time without one.
right. Do you think there's an advantage or a disadvantage of wearing a belt versus not wearing one?
Mm, no, it's a tool. So, um, like some people think, which I've done this before. Like if I train without a belt, then when I put the belt on, I'll be strong. I'll be really really strong.
Right.
Which I don't really think that's that true because when you take the belt off for a long time, you like putting it back on just kind of throws you off because it's like a tool. Like you have to use it and like get used to it. Now eventually, yeah, maybe because your core got stronger and all that other stuff. But like I don't know. Like it's a tool that you have to learn how to use and you kind of have to play with it a little bit.
Some people say, which I agree with this too, that wearing a belt actually makes you stronger because you are pushing your abs against the belt with a bunch of force. So it's
Yeah.
actually strengthening your abs instead of, taking away from your abs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I see that.
and I've never, which this was also mentioned in the video that I watched, but I've never seen somebody who trained with a belt that when they took the belt off, that their numbers went down beltless.
That's
So like,
true.
let's say you're deadlifting 405 and you put a belt on, you're pulling 435. Well, you train in your belt and you get to where you're pulling 475. I think your beltless number goes up. Like you don't stay at 405.
Yeah,
So
I think so too.
yeah, maybe your beltless number is now like 440 or something.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I mean it's a tool you got to learn how to use it. I don't really think there's a need to not use it. Um if you like every now and then you probably don't need it. Just it's nice to do some training without anything on.
I wouldn't put a belt on until you're doing like 75% or
Yeah.
something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
definitely. I would definitely would not put it on when you're doing your warm-ups.
No.
Don't do that. Just wait till 75% and then 70, 75, just and then put it on.
I mean, there's exceptions, but I probably don't put a belt on until I'm doing like 5 reps of something.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so five, 3 ones, I'll put my belt on when we're starting to do five. You know, it just all depends. But if I'm doing like one set of 20, I'm putting my belt on.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You got any brands you like over other people's?
I've been wearing an Enzer belt forever, but that's just because I've been lifting so long and they were one of the first people to ever have a powerlifting belt.
Yeah,
But
that's
there's so many brands and stuff now, like Rogue, and everybody just getting into the game in the last 5 years. I
yep.
really don't think there's a big difference between any of them now. But me personally, I just wear Inzer just because that's what I know.
Yeah, that's I got an Inzer one. So I mean, because it's really, I mean, like 7, 8 years ago, that was it.
Yeah, Inzer and I guess Titan made belts. I don't know.
I
The two big names was like Inzer and Titan, and then Elite Fitness came along. And then, like I said, now there's Rogue and 400 other people.
Yep.
But I can tell you for sure, as far as quality goes, that Inzer belt will last forever. Which I know we've already said that.
That's true. Those belts really will. I can't speak for other belts, but those Inzers, like, I really don't know how you mess those things up, man.
And you can get them all, tricked out now. You can get a blue belt, a purple belt, an American flag belt.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different stuff you can do. Get your name embroidered on it.
Yeah, you can do a lot. So yeah, get a belt. Get a belt, man.
That's all I can think of. How about wraps this one up?
I think so. But wear a belt. Keep your pants up. Wear a belt. Everyone get a belt. That's how we're doing on this podcast. Everyone wears belts for this podcast because you ain't going around acting all gangster with your pants hanging down. You ain't do that. That's not how you do. You can't go to the platform like that. You gotta put one of them singlets on and put a belt around yourself. Unless you're pure raw, then you don't do that. Pure raw is for people that don't do belts, so you don't need to spend money on one. But let's be honest, people want to lift the heaviest weight, and if you want to lift the heaviest weight possible, you have to wear a belt. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you on the next one.
We're out of here. Up next is the IBP Tar Heel State Powerlifting Championships in Belmont, North Carolina on April 20th. For more details about the competition, go to ironboypowerlifting.com.
Please subscribe and thank you for listening. Be sure to follow @CheckMyTotal on Instagram for all the latest updates.